It's bigger. Okay, so let's see. This is for the Assassin. This is the MapleStory Classic World Assassin skills that's been kind of leaked from the playtest. So first we see Claw Mastery. Let's take a look. Can't really read everything, but it says increases claw mastery and accuracy and gives a chance to recover used throwing stars when using throwing stars attacks. Only applies when a claw is equipped. So it looks like things are pretty much similar. Gives you an accuracy, gives you a mastery level, but now you have a chance to retrieve the stars that you've thrown. That's the new change, right? I think that's pretty cool. It almost seems like a quality of life update. So it reduces your need to go back to town to refill your stars. Maybe it also opens up the element of needing to, like, you don't really need to stack up on steelies as much. Right now it's at level 7 and it looks like level 8 there's a 12% chance. So from this progression that I can see, at max level maybe it'll be around 30% or so. Let's take a look. When it's at max level, oh, let's go back just slightly. We can see that at max level with Claw Mastery, it gives you a 25% chance to retrieve stars. So what does that mean? I think they were taking into consideration that you don't need to take up 12 slots in your consumable slots for stars. It alleviates the need for you to go back to town frequently. It also alleviates the need for you to fund your character as much. If you have, let's say, 25% chance is a quarter, right? So if you are running around with 12 slots of steelies, now essentially you can run around with 8 slots of steelies and it'll do the same. I think this was a good update. Assassins are known to be very costly in order to maximize your potential and in order to capitalize on the potential that an assassin and a Night Lord can have. And with this introduction of Claw Mastery and with the element of you being able to retrieve your stars, I think it's a good change that it brings in. You don't have to spend so much on buying up the stars. It also doesn't consume and eat up a lot of space in your consumable slot. Decent change. Let's read Critical Throw here. You will let me. I think it's going to be pretty much the same. Increases the critical rate and critical damage. So now here's something interesting, right? Not only do we have critical rate, but we also have a critical damage element to critical strike. Right now in Maple Land and in old school MapleStory, you only had an element of critical chance, critical rate, but now I think they're adding in critical damage with critical chance, which makes things a little bit more interesting. I kind of want to take our attention away from the skill and go over here and look at the stats that are coming with MapleStory Classic. Your attack, weapon defense, magic defense, accuracy, avoidability, all these are pretty much the same. Speed and jump is at 100%. I'm actually shocked to see that it's at 100% because I thought they were going to have a base speed and jump a little bit boosted. Is this live? Yes, this is live. I'm going over the changes. So if I can't respond to your guys' chat right away, I'm filming for content for YouTube, so I apologize that I can't reply to the chat frequently. But maybe the 100% speed and 100% jump doesn't directly equate to how it was. Maybe the algorithm for speed and jump is different. So 100% speed might be saying 100% speed to MapleStory Classic, but your movement speed compared to the characters in old school MapleStory might be still slightly faster. We'll see. But what's really interesting here is the new 2 stats that got added. critical rate, and critical damage, right? So you have a critical rate, which is interesting because, hold on, how does he have 8 critical rate, but he has a level 4, and it says only plus 2% to critical rate? Shouldn't this be plus 2%? And also, why isn't the percentage showing here? Critical rate is displayed as 8 without the percentage rate, without the percentage mark. Kind of interesting. I wonder what that means. I wonder if it just means a flat number of 8 or 8%. I don't know. But now we see that critical throw gives you a critical chance and an enhancement to critical damage. Let's see what it is at master level. So you can see as it's going up by 1. So it looks like at 5%. So this is essentially, there should be a percentage mark here. I think this is 11%. Not a flat number of 11, but I think it's a 11%. Let's continue to look. Let's see at master, because you can see it's going up equivalent to how much critical rate is being given by critical throw. I'm guessing this will go to 16, right? At max level, plus 10 to critical rate, and oh wait, a master level is 30. Hold on, there's more. So let's go all the way up to master level and see. Go back a little bit. We're gonna stop it right there. Okay, he doesn't want to show us. It's fine. Stop it right there. We'll just go off of this because I don't think he's gonna show us what it looks like at master level here. You can see that it gives plus 14 to critical rate and critical damage of plus 33%. And the critical rate here and critical damage directly equates to how much this is. There's a percentage mark being shown here, but there's no percentage mark being displayed on the critical rate and critical damage in the character stats. So maybe this is a bug, maybe this is something they need to fix, because I think it's slightly confusing when you clearly can portray percentage marks in the speed and jump, but there's no percentage mark being portrayed in the critical rate and damage section. But regardless, moving on from that, critical throw now enhances your critical damage while giving extra crit chance. So that's slightly new and different, right? And we already looked at this. Agile recovery basically recovers HP and MP with a certain chance when jumping. Okay, this is different. This is different from the bandit, right? Bandits were recover HP and MP with a certain amount when you are dodging or when you're avoiding or evading. But with assassins, agile recovery recovers HP and MP when you are jumping. I like this change. I like that because I think the main design and the uniqueness of assassins is that you are jumping and throwing stars. So the fact that now they've emphasized, they understand the core philosophy of the design of assassin is you're jumping around, you're moving, you're fast, and especially when you unlock flash jump in your third job advancement, when you're flash jumping to get away from enemies to create space, now you have an element, you have new layer of gameplay where you can actually recover HP and MP. I figured it would be the same as a bandit, because a bandit, you gain HP and MP when you avoid. Very different. I like that it's different because it gives that class a little bit of more uniqueness. I think it cements the idea of assassins jumping around and throwing stars. That's kind of how it was in old school MapleStory and the way I saw it. So I think that's a good change. I think this is very interesting. Let's see how much it recovers at max level. There we go, 15. Max level is 20. Let's see, there we go. At level 20, recover 10% HP and 10% MP with 100% chance when jumping. Hold on, does this not have a cooldown? This doesn't have a cooldown? There's no cooldown. That's interesting, right? So every time you jump, you gain HP. Oh wait, hold on. Within 60 seconds after a recovery. Okay, so there is a cooldown. I'm sorry. Cannot recover again within 60 seconds. So essentially there's a 60 second cooldown. I was about to say, people can really manipulate this if there isn't a cooldown, but it looks like there is. Really cool addition. I think it's a good addition. It cements the character design of what Assassin is. Really cool. Let's see what Claw Booster does. Let's take it to max level, or we'll read it at max level. I think that's better. So there we go. At max level, Claw Booster uses HP and MP to temporarily increase the attack speed of the equipped claw. We're familiar with that. It only applies when the character is equipped with a claw and throwing stars. Give me a second. Close my door real quick. Okay. The one thing that changed about this skill is that now it increases the attack speed by 2 stages. Right? And for 300 seconds. I think that's slightly longer than what it is in old school MapleStory. Pretty cool. And I have this understanding and I have this knowledge that apparently assassins are gonna get nerfed in terms of attack speed. Like, I think claws in general are gonna come down a slight bit in their attack speed. So the fact that they're increasing the claws attack speed by 2 stages, maybe they're trying to put more importance into the booster skill. I'm not sure, but 2 stages is a lot. So if you're wearing a normal attack speed claw, now it'll be either fast or extra fast, because when you wear a normal claw, there's 2 stages of normal. There's normal and another normal that's a little bit faster than normal. And I wish they did a better job distinguishing that, but they don't. You kind of have to go to a third-party website to see the difference. There's also fast, and there's it's described as fast, but there's another layer to fast that sits on top of fast that's slightly faster than fast, but they're both marked as fast. So 2 stages of fast, pretty cool. Nothing really huge different there other than an additional stage of the claw being fast. Now drain, let's look at drain. Let's see. Oh, I don't know what I did there. Let's go back. Dagger. I think I clicked. Okay, there we go. Now we're back. Is that it? Okay, now we're gonna look at drain. Take it to max level. Drain's master level is 30. From my understanding is that drain also got a pretty big buff. But once he's at master level, we'll read it and discuss it. There we go, level 30. Drain absorbs some of the damage dished out to the enemy as HP. The most one can absorb at once is 25% of the character's max HP, and can't absorb more than the max HP of the enemy. So if you use it on a snail or a lower level monster, it's basically pointless. You have to use it within your level of monsters. Absorb some of the damage dished out to the enemy as HP. So not much difference actually, other than you're getting a lot more HP absorption, I think. I don't know too much about assassins, but I think it's essentially doing the same thing. If anything, it's absorbing a little bit more HP than it did previously. And that's it for the Assassin. Assassin's second job advancement. I think overall, I really like that the Agile recovery gives you more HP and MP while you're jumping. And the element of cooldown kind of puts a stoppage, puts a roadblock into you abusing that like crazy. Because before, when I first read it and I didn't see the 60-second cooldown, or 60-second cooldown is I thought, well, why can't you just stand in a corner and just continuously jump without having to use potion? But then the 60-second cooldown, I think, mitigates players from abusing that skill. And another thing that I really like is that although the skill name is the same as the bandits agile recovery, for bandits, when you avoid, you gain HP and MP. And that's really cool, right? Because when you play a bandit, you're more in their face. And I wonder if they're going to branch off of that and make bandits and give bandits more avoidability than the assassins. I think that would be really cool to work off of those two, work off of the stat avoidability for bandits, and distinguish the bandits from assassins in that sense, right? Give bandits more stun, more CC, and also a chance to avoid more than the assassins. When the assassins can be at a range and a distance and they're recovering via jumping, because the whole point of an assassin is for you to create space. Use flash jump, use haste, you can do a fadeaway throwing star attack. You want to create space. You don't have a lot of CC, you want to create your own space and mob enemies that way. So it makes sense that agile recovery recovers HP and MP while you're jumping. As for bandits, you're in their face. You have to be upfront because you're a melee character, and bandits have the shortest reach compared to any other class, even compared to a warrior. So the fact that they're capitalizing and emphasizing avoidability with their agile recovery, and they're distinguishing that too, I think it's a great thing. That's a great thing, I think. So this is the assassin. Now let's take a look at, let's see here. There's one more that I want to show you guys. This one is the warrior one. So let's look here. This one is a different video by someone else, and he doesn't really show the skills off too much, but we'll see what we can see here. Not seeing much skills. We just saw guard. We already know about guard. Guard is really cool. And I think guard is being triggered when you wear a shield. So bandits also get that guard effect. Now, as you can see, this guy is playing a fighter and he's wearing a shield, and there's a guard effect that's being triggered. Let's read final attack. Final attack for an axe. He's not wearing an axe, is he? I thought he was wearing a blunt weapon. Anyways, final attack, let's read this skill. It says attacks have a chance to prepare another far deadlier blow for a short term. When prepared, this skill can be used once. It works only when holding one-handed or two-handed axe. It doesn't really go into detail about what does it mean when it says short term. Is it 2 seconds? Is it 3 seconds? It's not really letting me know. It's like it says, for 25% success rate, final attack damage is 350%. That's a lot of damage. Just for reference, Power Strike, I believe, does 260% at max level. Correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe in MapleStory Classic it might be a little different. But one thing someone noted that I think is really important here is that when you have a skill that's trigger based in a game like MapleStory, I hope the trigger does not show up here in the corner of the screen and it starts flashing, because think about how annoying it would be while you're mobbing monsters and you constantly have to look up to the corner of your screen to see if final attack is being triggered or not, right? I think it'd be cool. This is a cool concept. I think it makes warriors a lot more engaging. I played a Spearman in Mapleland in an old school MapleStory setting, and warriors are really dull and boring to play all the way up to level 70. And adding final attack, or giving a little bit of change to final attack where you're more interactive, there's a layer of gameplay, tempo switches. These are all good, as long as it's not a burden to the player, and as long as it's not annoying, it's not a mechanic that causes annoyance. If the trigger warning, if the trigger sign or the trigger action or skill only shows up here at the top right, then I don't know, I feel like it would be too much of a hassle, because you constantly have to look up, and instead of doing that, it'd be cool to have a little bit of a aura, something slight, nothing too fancy, because we want to be careful. We don't want to turn this game into modern MapleStory where everything's too flashy, over dramatic, none of that. But maybe a slight sound effect or a slight blip, like a light that shows on top of your character, or an aura that comes out, something to let the player know where your center of your vision, your focus is on the character and the mob, which is essentially at the center of the screen. And something to mitigate you from constantly having to look up like this to check if your final attack is being triggered or not. I think that would be cool. Maybe it'll show in this video. We can take a look. Oh, he's just doing basic. Oh no, there's power strike. He's doing power strike. Let me see if I can. Let me alter this a little bit so you guys can see better. Do it like that. I'm looking for anything to show me that power strike is going to get triggered. For it being a 25%, we're not really seeing it be triggered that much, right? But you can see here he's having a bleed effect. I think we'll get to see that a little bit more too. Oh, here it is. You see that? It was really quick. It was really quick. It went by like this. And I don't know about that. Did we see anything in the character to warrant, to let us know, any type of signal? Nothing from the character. There's no aura, there's no sign. Obviously, we're not hearing any auditory signals, but you know, if we have to essentially just always constantly be aware and constantly check to see final attack is going to get triggered, I think that's too burdensome. There's definitely there's no visual cue, so there has to be an auditory cue that we're not hearing. This goes by way too quick. It goes by way too quick. Hold on. Right here. Look how fast that goes. This is quarter of the speed, and I think it lasts for maybe half a second. That's at the quarter of a speed. There's no visual cue, which is unfortunate. I wish there was some sort of a visual cue to let you know that, hey, final attack, you can use it, or an auditory cue to let you know. But none of that. Okay. Let's see if he'll show us a different skill here. We already know that. Looking at the skill, everything looks pretty much the same. Axe booster. Let's look at booster. So this booster, we're gonna use this as an example for all the other weapons. It looks like it's essentially the same. Uses HP and MP to temporarily increase the attack speed. And it only applies depending on, like, obviously, it has to correlate to the name of the booster. So if you're using axe booster, you must wear a one-hand or two-handed axe in your hand. Probably gonna be the same for the sword, right? We saw that, we already know this. But even for this booster, I think this is gonna be universal for all classes. Boosters are essentially gonna raise your attack speed by 2 stages. Whether you're a warrior, an assassin, a bandit. I think bandits we also saw 2 stages. An archer, I'm sure is gonna be 2 stages. Okay. Anything else that's interesting? Let's see. Axe Mastery. I wonder if he'll show me the mastery. Let's see if he'll show us the mastery. He's just showing me boosters. Come on, show me something new. Let's speed it up. Just a little bit. Is that it? Oh, what's this? Precise strike. This is for a warrior first job advancement. Repeated practice with your weapon has increased your accuracy and critical rate. This is I think this is a great thing. Now you get accuracy from your first job advancement skill, plus 22 accuracy, and it looks like it's also going to give critical rate. Not critical damage, but critical rate. Interesting. I wonder if, hold on, let's see if he'll show us more. This guy won't show us more. I wish he would have done it like the other guy, leveling the skill so we can see more about that skill. Ooh, threat. I want to see this one. This one's going to be interesting. There we go. Let's take a look at threat for pages. Uses MP to temporarily threaten monsters. Decreases the movement speed, weapon attack, weapon defense up to 4 monsters around the area. So I have a question about this one. Will this apply to bosses? I think that's the biggest question that we want to be answered, because if it stays at this rate, I have a feeling threat is still going to be pretty irrelevant, right? The issue with pages, so I'll tell you a quick issue that pages have in old school MapleStory compared to their counterparts like Spearman and Crusaders. Crusaders and Spearmen are more valuable, and pages kind of always been in the third when it comes to their viability, because Spearmen can give hyper body to the entire party. It's a great S tier utility buff for the party. Even if it gets nerfed in MapleStory Classic, the fact that you have an element of utility that you can provide to the party makes you more viable than something like this. Threat, unless it applies to bosses, you're just gonna end up, being in third place again when it comes to viability and being required in a party setting. Crusaders, fighters, offer a buff called Rage, which increases the weapon attack damage of everybody in the party. I would say it's about an it might not be an S tier utility buff, but it's a great buff that you can provide to the party. Maybe I would place it in A tier. But threat, if this doesn't apply to bossing or bosses, then I feel like, again, you'll most likely forego this. I feel like you won't be using this skill. That's the biggest question I have about threat. Let's look at Power Guard real quick. I have to time this right. There we go. I think I have it sped up. That's the issue. Let's slow it down, make it easier for me. Let's look at Power Guard, right? Power Guard originally only existed for pages and fighters. I don't know if Spearmans are gonna have it. I guess we'll see. But let's see if there was any changes to Power Guard. Reflects a portion of physical damage received from enemies. If incoming damage is guarded with a shield, 100% of the damage is reflected instead. Wow. However, the reflected damage cannot exceed 10% of enemies' max HP at once. Okay. So if you don't wear a shield, you're reflecting up to 40% of physical damage. If you're wearing a shield, if the incoming damage is guarded with the shield, so if you trigger a guard, right? Essentially, if you trigger a guard while you're wearing a shield, you reflect the damage. I think what's going on with MapleStory Classic is they want to really emphasize. I think they took into consideration that a lot of players that play the warrior class only go for the sword most of the time, right? If people are using axes or blunt weapons, they're doing it for nostalgic reasons. They're not doing it for viability or efficiency or because it makes sense. They're doing it because it looks cool. And maybe they want to elevate these other, like one-hand weapon with a shield or axes and blunts. You can tell by the changes that they're bringing that they want to break that stigma, that swords are the best no matter what. So they want to see people use different weapons, and they want to see people really, like if they want to fixate on being a tank for the party, they want to elevate or basically bring back, not even bring back, they want to they want to really put a lot of importance into the shield. You can tell by the guard effect. You can tell that power guard now works with the shield. It used to not be like this. In old school MapleStory and in Maple Land, power guard just triggers whether you wear a shield or not. So if you're just wearing, if you have a two-hand sword on, which is almost everybody that's playing a warrior, either a page or a crusader, all heroes and crusaders go for a two-hand shield. That it doesn't make sense to do any other thing. If you're doing it, if you're wearing a two-hand axe, two-hand blunt weapon, or one hand with a shield, it's because you're playing the game strictly for fun, for nostalgic value. But now having power guard work with the shield might change things up, and I think that's what they want, right? I think it's a pretty cool change. Obviously, we have to see how it plays out, but I think the direction that, or the idea that they're trying to emphasize is really cool, and it's good for the game. Threat, power guard. Let's see if we can get any more information from this video. I want to see like Iron Wall. I wish he would have showed us a little bit more like rage. I wish he would have showed us rage. Unfortunately, we don't get any glimpse of rage at all on the fighter side, unless I missed it, but I don't think so. Let's go to Spearman. Let's see. Well, he switched over to a Spearman. Oh, look at that level 50 Spearman. Isn't that nostalgic? Who's ready to play Spearman? I know a lot of you guys love Spearman. I think Spearman is the most popular warrior class in Maple Land. And I also love seeing a class-specific helm and not just a Kum helm everywhere. If I can just say, if I can just tell the developers one thing, obviously it would be don't bring the gacha and the cubing and all of that nonsense, but also makes a Kum helm into, don't turn it into a helm, but turn it into either a pendant or something, so we can keep the class helms for uniqueness. I would love that. I would love to see level 80, level 70, level 90 class-based helms on people, and not just a Kum helm on everybody. Spear booster, the same thing. I'm sure the final attack, spear booster, all of these are going to be the same with other warrior classes. What I'm really interested in, and what I really want to see is the Iron Wall and Hyper Body. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Iron Wall temporarily increases the user's weapon defense and grants a chance to ignore knockback effects. 20 weapon defense plus 50, so now you get a huge weapon defense bonus. That's actually really cool. And then you also get a 35% chance to ignore knockbacks for 300 seconds. That is so cool. I will say that is a great change. Here's the thing. Iron Wall in old school MapleStory and in Maple Land gave you 20 plus weapon defense and 20 plus magic defense. But magic defense really isn't necessary in the early levels because a lot of the monsters in your early levels, especially from 30, like maybe once you get to 70 plus, you'll start seeing monsters that will do magic attack. But in your second advancement era of level 30 to 70, a lot of monsters just come run at you. And all of that is weapon defense. So they completely remove the magic defense boost and focus more on the weapon defense. And now here's the cool part. It has a 35 chance to ignore knockback for 35 chance to ignore knockbacks for 300 seconds. One thing that I'm not sure based off this description is this a party buff or not? Now maybe I'll have a little bit more of a clue once I read Hyperbody, because I think we know for a fact that Hyperbody will be a party buff. It has to be. They can't remove Hyperbody. If you remove Hyperbody, a lot of other classes are not going to be able to participate in endgame content. Hyperbody is, if priests are essential and act as a glue to bring parties together, right? Hyperbody is just as essential to allow people to play together in endgame content. That's how important Hyperbody is. So I have no doubt that Hyperbody will be a party buff. But once I read Hyperbody, I think I'll have a little bit more of a clue if Iron Will or Iron Wall. I thought it was Iron Wall. If Iron Will be a party buff or an individual buff. It definitely says users weapon defense and grants a chance to ignore knockbacks. So we'll see. But the fact that they made this change, I think, is a huge W and huge win for the players. Iron Will was essentially useless, guys. When you have a priest in a party, which was almost all the time, and especially if you're playing the game in a party-centric manner like they do in the East, you always had a priest or a cleric in the party. And when they used Bless, it granted you plus 20 weapon defense, plus 20 magic defense, and that's all that Iron Will provided, and that was it. So there was essentially no need for you to put levels and points into Iron Will, right? But now that they have made this change, now it becomes more useful. I think if Iron Will is a party buff, I think this might be at least an A tier party utility buff. At least A tier. That is a pretty cool change. Well, let's see if he'll show us. Oh, I want to see Iron Body too. Actually, let's look at an Iron Body. Here we go. Is that 30%? Temporarily increases your weapon defense. Weapon defense plus 30% for 600 seconds. So Iron Will. Oh, here we go. We can see Hyper Body. What time is this? 18:38. Let's look at Iron Will real quick. We're gonna look at that in a bit. See if we can. Come on, man. I gotta get the timing right. Come on, man. Let me slow it down. Easier when I slow it down. I'm too old. I can't time it right. There we go. Iron Will gives plus 50. There's no percentage. It's not a percentage based weapon defense, but it's just a flat stat of plus 50 to weapon defense, and you can use it in conjunction with Iron Will. I would assume, which gives a flat, or not a flat, but a percentage based weapon defense. So Iron Body is going to be a really great skill that will scale as you level, whereas Iron Will is really great for the initial level of your grinding because it gives you a flat rate of weapon defense 50 on top of the 35 chance of you not getting knocked back when you get hit. Let's look at Hyper Body. Was almost there. Give me Hyper Body. There we go. Let's read Hyperbody. Hyperbody says, temporarily increases the max HP of all party members. There we have it. We have the answer right there. Hyperbody is definitely a party skill. And Iron Will most likely will not be. The description says it, right? It looks like at max level, you will get plus 30% max HP for 300 seconds. So it's a pretty big nerf, but maybe they'll figure out how to make this work in endgame content, because when you get to Horntail especially, maybe not Zakum, and even Zakum too, when you get to Horntail, a lot of players need to get to level 150, 160 to participate in Horntail. And for MapleStory Classic, they have a long way to go until we even get to Horntail. So there's time for them to make this work, and maybe they have a roadmap that we don't know about. But in Maple Land and in old school MapleStory, you needed Hyperbody. The biggest blockage that you had from participating in endgame raids was that you did not have enough HP. And that's when HP watching became a thing. That's when all of these things became like HP was a crucial stat that needed to be, you know, you needed to have enough HP in order to participate in endgame content. And Hyperbody, obviously for that reason, was an S tier utility buff. But now this being nerfed, they have to approach it differently. They have to have a different way to either increase your HP so you can participate in Horntail and Pink Bean and stuff like that endgame content, or they have to do something, you know, or they have to let these boss raids do less damage. We'll see. But it is a nerf. And one thing that's, you know, another thing that's really interesting is that Hyperbody in the description clearly states all party members, and Iron Will says users. So there's that distinction there. Iron Will no longer be a party buff. Kind of sad. But you know what's really cool? Now Spearmans will have that unique distinction, right? They will definitely stand out. Iron Will make them very unique as a Spearman. So that's good. They already have a utility buff Hyperbody. So maybe it's a good thing that Iron Will is just for them. It's a unique individual buff that only the Spearmans get. They will definitely stand out, right? Interesting, very interesting. Let's see if we get anything more. I think there's nothing more to really look at for Spearman. Oh, here's Fire Poison Mage. Wow, look at this. We get more. Let's see if he'll show us Fire Poison Mage skills. I'm looking. Oh. We've already went through this. Let's look at this. Okay, he didn't really show me much there. Let's see if we can try to stop it at the right time to get a little bit of info here. I think he's showing us how much damage mitigation is coming in. Let's see. Where will he show me the skill? There we go. See here. Slow. Fire arrow. Let's look at fire arrow. Let's see if it's any different than what we know or what we are familiar with. Creates a fire arrow using magic power and shoots them at enemies. Enemies hit take fire elemental damage. It already does that. And are burned. Burned is a new feature. Receiving continuous damage every second for 3 seconds. Deals reduced damage to fire-based enemies and increased damage to ice damage. Okay, ice-based enemies. Basic attack is 50 on 3 enemies. Deals 3 basic attack for 3 seconds. Wow, actually, hold on. That's actually really strong, right? When you use fire arrow for the first time, it does 50 basic attack of 50 on 3 enemies. So I'm assuming it's going to be same as Maple Land, where you shoot it in an arrow like as an iron arrow and it shoots out and it penetrates enemies as it goes through. But the new element that's being added, something new that's being added to the fire arrow, is the damage over time effect. And I would have imagined the damage over time would do significantly less damage, but just by looking at this, it says deal 30 basic attack, which is only 20 less than when you initially shoot. And obviously it's over 3 seconds, so you're doing 10 basic attack each second, but still I think that's a lot for a dot. As a damage over time effect, I think 10 basic attack, essentially a fifth of what your original damage is every second, is really strong. So if you go to like Elnath, I think you might be the king there as a fire poison mage. Really cool change there. Let's see if we can get another skill that he can show us. No, there was a, I think he if I can time it right, slow. Ugh, it's very blurry. Temporarily slows down the monsters up to 4 monsters, cannot be used on the same monster more than twice in a row. Enemy speed is -30 for 25 seconds. I don't see this skill being used unless there's some mechanics that gets introduced in the future. Unless there's a mechanic in a party quest or new content that comes out that requires you to slow down the enemies, I don't really see this being useful. Matt said level 50 mage with 1.2k HP is nuts. You know, I just saw that too. That is a lot of HP, right? And then you use magic guard, which mitigates 80% of your damage, and you take it into MP. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Somebody said like fire poison mages or mages are going to be tanks, and maybe it was true. It was just a theory at the time, and people were speculating, but maybe that's going to be the case. Let's see if we can see some ice lightning mage skills. I don't see him showing us any skills. Okay, this is the cleric. Let me speed this up. Whoa, he's very weak for a level 50 mage. The Thunderbolt, is that the skill? The mobbing skill. Did you just see the damage? Super underwhelming. 69, 70. Unless there's some elemental affinity there that I'm not aware of. Maybe they're taking reduced damage from lightning and that's what's going on, but that damage seems really underwhelming, right? I think that's what's going on. We just saw a mage crit. Something new, exciting. Let's see. There we go. There's some skill. Here's a skill description here for Thunderbolt. Attack surrounding monsters with Thunderbolt, dealing lightning elemental damage. All monsters except those resistant to lightning have a chance to be stunned by electrocution. I don't know, I can't tell based on what the damage algorithm is. I don't know if it's got nerfed or buffed, but a new element has been added where now you can stun enemies as long as they're not resistant to lightning damage. Pretty cool. So you can stun enemies now. Ice lightning mages have a more CC. They could freeze enemies, and now you can also stun enemies. And looking at the damage, basic attack is 50, so it's essentially the same as fire arrow, but there's no damage over time, and it has a 20% chance to be electrocuted. So it's not 100% chance, but it's a 20% chance, right? I think this is kind of broken, if I must say. I kind of want to see what Cold Beam is, but I'm assuming because Cold Beam is a single target skill that it'll do more damage. And we saw that couple of like a minute ago that Cold Beam was doing more damage than Thunderbolt, unless there's like some elemental affinity shenanigans going on that I'm not aware of. But it makes sense if Cold Beam is a single target skill that it would hit a little bit harder. And when you look at fire poison mages, they only had fire arrow, right? But maybe he'll show us Cold Beam here. Hopefully. Hopefully. Nope. He won't show us Cold Beam, fortunately. But if you can see Cold Beam is doing a lot more damage, then let's see if he'll show us Thunderbolt. See, Thunderbolt is doing a lot less damage, but it could be that these guys are resistant to lightning. And golems resist lightning too. Okay, Kratos said golems resist lightning. I see. Fairies have magic resistance and golems resist lightning too. Okay, so there we go. 이거 AI인가요? AI 아닙니다. 한국에 계신 거예요. 미국에 거주하고 있습니다. 지금 메이플스토리 클래식에 공개된 스킬 변경들을 한번 훑어보고 있습니다. 시청자분들과. Wow, Cold Beam does a lot of damage, right? I like these effects. I like how they turn into blue. I think this already happens, right? This already happens with Ice Lightning mages, but seeing it again, it looks like they might have gotten a visualization update, like a skill effect update. That icicle looks a lot better than what I see in Maple Land. Looks really cool. Definitely not getting frozen. Judging by this, I can't really tell what's better, Ice Lightning Mage or Fire Poison Mage. Fire Poison Mages have more damage focused, I think, and Ice Lightning Mages have a little bit more CC and crowd control. I think that's going to be the core difference between these two classes. Here's Clerics, I believe, and now he's going to kill the zombie mushrooms. Mushrooms, I'm assuming. Let's see. Where's he going? Where is he going? I want to see him use heal. Or Holy Arrow. Wait, this is still Ice Lightning Mage. Okay, let's go to Clerics. We've already covered Clerics. I just want to see him do the damage. Wow, look at that. You're essentially using strafe with one less arrow. So you're like a ranger now. And I love strafe. And I like seeing this, it looks fun. I wonder what happens if there's multiple enemies here. And it splits. As you can see, the arrow splits amongst the enemies. Pretty cool. So if there's only one enemy, all three arrows hit that enemy. But if there's multiple enemies, the arrows get split to hit multiple enemies. You're gonna be essentially like a bow mage. If heal isn't your main mobbing skill and it turns into that Holy Arrow is your main mobbing skill, you're gonna be a bow mage. I guess it's the same for Fire Poison Mages too. I wonder who's stronger, Fire Poison Mage or Cleric. Can we see that real quick? Let's see how much damage this guy did. So look, he does essentially the same thing. 3 lines of damage, and when there's multiple enemies, let's see what happens. I kind of want to see him use, but then you have a DOT. You have a dot damage over time effect. It's the same thing. It's the same mechanism, right? Holy Arrow and Fire Arrow are being distributed amongst the enemies in front of you. But if there's only one enemy, that enemy takes 3 arrows. Right? 미국에서 메이플랜드 하는 한국어를 말하는 외국인이라 귀하네요. 감사합니다. 라이브 2개가 동시에 송출되네. 뭐지? 무슨 소리죠? So essentially, Fire Poison Mages and Clerics are doing the same type of thing, except Fire Poison Mages are doing more damage over time. And I remember raising a concern about this, is that if you take Holy Symbol away, which a lot of people are speculating that Holy Symbol is going to go away, what's gonna stop you from putting a fire poison mage in the spot of a cleric or a priest? Because obviously fire poison mages do more damage, and if everybody becomes efficient Karens and best method Andes, all they're gonna do is just fill in that slot with anybody else other than the cleric. So that is my concern when it comes to taking away Holy Symbol. And essentially, as you can see here, they're doing the same thing with different elemental affinities. Maybe the elemental affinities will come into play depending on what map you go to and what training ground you go to. So let's say you're training at El Nath. Obviously you want the fire poison mages to be in your party because they're doing more damage. But maybe if you go to like what's another undead, like a Forest of the Dead in El Nath, where you're grinding together at coolie zombies, or you go to the bottom floors of Ludibrium and Holy Symbol doesn't exist, then the priest will do more damage than the fire poison mage and other mages. Maybe that will create the distinction. Maybe that will create maybe that will be enough for priests to be viable in a party setting, but I don't know. I can't really tell. Judging off of this, they're doing the same thing and they're doing about the same damage, but fire poison mages have a damage over time effect. They cannot take Holy Symbol away. That would be a travesty. Absolutely no reason to play priest. I used to think that no Holy Symbol would be a decent solution, but now that heal is so gimped, what do priests have left? That's what I'm saying. I feel like what other than bless and heal in a party quest setting, why would you invite a priest into a party training session? Priests would be really great at party quests where there's like a boss involved and a very hard-hitting monster involved. You would almost always take a different mage than a priest. We've already looked at assassins. Crossbowmen, let's look at crossbowmen, yeah? Real quick. Crossbowmen and hunters. Only a couple of things. Focus is essentially the same. Let me slow this down so we can get it right. I want to see all of these. Come on. It's playing? Oh no, it's not playing. Gotta time it right. There we go. Critical shot. Essentially at master level of critical shot, which is level 15, you get 15% extra critical rate and 15% critical damage. That's the same as the assassins, right? That's the same as the assassins. Let's see. I couldn't get Amazon's Judgment. I want to see Amazon's Judgment. Damn it. Let's see if I can slow it down enough. Oh, that's it. Oh my god. I can't get it right. Sorry guys. Bear with me. Let's see if I can get this right. I want to see. I'm going to try one more time. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I'm going to read off of that. Extremely blurry. Critical hits. Okay, this is impossible. It says slowing them down. Sever. Oh, okay. Critical hits sever the enemy's tendons, slowing them down. Critical hits have a 100% chance to reduce enemy speed by 35% for 3 seconds. So here's another cool that's another cool introduct element that gets added into the archers, right? And I've spoken on archers before and the difference between archers and assassins and their gameplay. Archers are very good at, and I think I'm glad that MapleStory Classic recognizes this as well. The difference between an archer and an assassin is that assassins are really nimble and fast. They like to create space, flash jump, get away from the enemy, jump attack, fadeaway attack. They like to jump back, look back, and throw the stars, right? They play like a true assassin. What you can imagine an assassin would be, they play just like that. And they've cemented that and they captured that very well with nimble agility. When you heal health and HP when you jump. The opposite is true for hunters and archers. Archer classes are very good at managing and micromanaging their area. They can push enemies away, they can stun them, they have puppets to keep the enemies afar, and then they also summon a hawk, a friendly. They can summon an eagle, a hawk, to stun enemies that come near you. They're very good at being stationary, like an SMG or like a ballista. They like being stationary and keeping the enemies away. And now this essentially does the same thing with Amazon's Judgment. When you critical strike an enemy and they're coming towards you, they get slowed, right? So you can be stationary while keeping the enemies afar, and it's a completely different playstyle, even if you're ranged from an assassin, right? And you can see that, and they've captured that very well here with Amazon's Judgment. They want to give archers the ability to CC more and stay stationary and micromanage their little platform, their little area that they have, and kill the enemies around them. They can push enemies away with power knockback, which I'm sure they will have, and they can stun enemies that are far away, slow them, stun them. And once you unlock third job advancement, you also have arrow bomb with hunters in the second job advancement. And when you go to third job advancement and you become a crossbowman, you have ice shot, which can CC the enemy, keeping them afar. Really cool introduction with Amazon's Judgment, what they've done here. Focus increases accuracy and avoidability for 300 seconds. Pretty standard. That's what we've seen before. Not too much different there. Arrow blow is 310% now, so it looks like it got a little bit of a damage boost. And double shot essentially is also 310%, but this is still gonna be more valuable than arrow blow, because you're shooting 2 arrows at once, and each arrow is gonna have a chance to crit, which again, unfortunately, a lot of people will forego arrow blow for that reason. It's the reason why people forewent arrow blow in old school MapleStory and in Maple Land 2, is that even if they make the damage calculation the same, the issue is that double shot is still stronger, or the reason that it's shooting twice and each arrow has a chance of critting, right? And obviously with Amazon's Judgment and crit now giving the ability for hunters to apply CC to enemies, it just makes more sense for you to go double shot over arrow blow. I feel like they should have done something with arrow blow. A lot of crossbowmen likes to go arrow blow for nostalgic value. The thing about crossbowmen is that they do more damage, but they're slower than the hunter. And there's a design philosophy there between the hunter and the crossbowman. Crossbowman's weapon tend to be a little bit slower, but they tend to hit harder, and that's because the required strength to wear the crossbow is lower than the required strength to wear the bow. So that amount of strength gets attributed to dex. Therefore, you have more damage coming out because your main stat as an archer is dex. Your damage calculation goes off of the dex multiplier. So more dex you have, the more damage you do. And crossbowmen usually had a little bit more dex than the archer. And that was compensated by how quickly the hunters could attack. And the design and philosophy was there. Now, for that reason, a lot of crossbowmen for nostalgic value went arrow blow because they wanted to see high numbers. When arrow blow crits, you're gonna see, like, if double shot crits and you're gonna see like 1,000 on a crit damage. With arrow blow, you could easily see 2,000, 3,000 even when it crits. But maybe they could have done something more to arrow blow to highlight or emphasize and have it work in conjunction with crossbowmen's a little bit more. But you know, I'm not smart enough to come up with a solution for that, and maybe they just liked it the way it was like this, because everybody's gonna, both crossbowmen and hunters will use double shot if this is the case, right? And that's fine. You know, this is a minor thing, it's not a big deal. Let's look at crossbow. I missed it. Let's look at crossbow mastery real quick, right? Boom. Boom. I can't get it right, guys. I am not good at this, huh? Let's see. It's right here. It's coming up. I'll try to get it right this time, and if I can't get it right, we're just gonna skip it. No, I can't get the frame right. I'm sure like all the masteries are essentially the same, though. I can't imagine one class's mastery being different from other classes' mastery. Booster, essentially the same. 2 stages of attack. Now, power knockback is unique to archers, crossbowmen, so we'll look at power knockback and what it does. Swings the bow widely to push multiple enemies far back. Like I said, this is the philosophy of an archer. They like to push enemies away instead of running away. With a certain success rate, this attack always hits as a critical, and as the level rises, the number of monsters that one can push back with one swing increases. That's really smart, and I'll tell you why this is smart, because this works really well. This works in harmony with Amazon's judgment. Remember the effect of Amazon's judgment? It said when you critical strike an enemy, they have reduced movement speed. Issue with power knockback back in the day, and in old school MapleStory, when you use power knockback, enemies would get pushed back, but they would quickly come at you. So when you were dealing with a lot of monsters, essentially what you were doing, you would push them back, but the ones you pushed back earlier will come run at you, and once you push those enemies back, the enemies you pushed prior to that enemy will come run at you, and it will never stop, and eventually you start killing the enemies from the pure damage of power knockback, right? But now, because it always crits, when you push the enemy back, and it looks like at master level it's 100% chance, when you push them back, they come at you slower, gives you more of a space to work with as an archer, and this tells me that there's gonna be bow whacking. If there is no bow whacking, there's no need to have power knockback. And I was so sad to hear that they were getting rid of claw whacking and bow whacking, and somebody said that you can jump attack as an archer. All of those things blur the line of class identity. It might be a quality of life, maybe like some people are thinking that it will be fun for that to happen, but I think that's it's pretty base. You're not really thinking of the bigger picture. I think you're making a mistake if you want that. You want bow whacking to be a thing, because if you're not bow whacking, all you're gonna do is go to a place like C2 or C1, stand in the middle of the map, and just continuously spam. It's gonna be less interactive and less fun. And class identities shrink and they kind of blur, they overshadow one another, they collide and collapse. It's a good thing that there's bow whacking and claw whacking, in my opinion. So when you use power knockback, it goes with the class design and class philosophy. You create space. Now you can start shooting your main attack and stun enemies and keep the enemies afar before they come to you. I think it's a great thing. You can knock back up to 4 enemies, and it looks like it does decent damage, and it says by 150. I'm guessing that's a metric of distance. I'm not sure how far that is, but I'm sure it'll stay pretty true to how it was back in the day. Let me read some chat real quick. Do you think they just want to see more crossbowmen? I'm not sure. Why do you say that? I think they're being pretty fair to crossbowmen and archers. I haven't seen anything that favors crossbowmen. Archers do not bow whack now, but Sin still claw punch. It says in the mastery for both second job archers. Really? That's a little sad to hear. I wish I can get that in the frame. It's so hard to get that in the frame, guys. I wanna see that. Is there a way I can get that in the frame? Oof. I mean, that's the best I can do. Let's see. Increases the crossbow mastery and gives you a chance to deal damage that ignores the target's weapon defense and attacks on nearby monsters that has a chance to be ranged attack of skill instead of melee attack. Oh, you guys are right. They are getting rid of bow whacking. Oh, okay, I see it here. 100% chance to use a skill of range attack on nearby monsters. I have a question with that. If they're gonna say this and release this, what's the point of having power knockback? What's the point of having a slow? I don't understand. You know? So if you're going to allow archers to essentially shoot their bow and there's no bow whacking, what's the point of having a CC? I don't see how that makes sense, but you know, it seems like a lot of people like it, and this is just my opinion. But whatever people like, right? Temporarily, let's look at Soul Arrow. Temporarily allows the character to fire crossbow arrows without using up arrows. It's about the same. No difference with Soul Arrow, same thing. Let's see if there's a change to Iron Arrow, if he'll show us that. There we go. Let's look at Iron Arrow. Attacks up to 4 monsters at once with a powerful arrow, which penetrates. Damage decreases as the arrow flies through each monster. No changes here, except for the fact that it went from 6 monsters to 4. Let's see here what chat is saying. Our knockback is 100%, so for the funsies, I guess. I agree, they should keep the bow whack. 100% crit. For content we don't know about yet, my bad. Yeah, we'll see, guys. I mean, I still think everything else that I see makes sense and it looks fun. There's only one thing that I'm questioning and I don't agree with, but you know, maybe they have better things in the future lined up to make all of this make sense. Let's see if there's more we can look at. Let's look at hunters, yeah? So here we go. I kind of want to just look at arrow bomb for hunters, because that's the only difference between a hunter and a crossbowman. Let's see if he'll show us hunter. Will he show me arrow bomb? Yes, he'll show me arrow bomb. Okay, let's read arrow bomb, yeah? Fires an arrow with a bomb attached to it. If struck cleanly, the bomb explodes on the enemy, stunning some enemies around with a certain success rate. Can't attack more than 4 at once, and it only works with a bow in hand. So a slight nerf, I would say, because it used to be up to 6 enemies, and the stun chance is only at 60%, which I believe is lower than how it is in old school MapleStory. 3 seconds seems like a really long time though, I will say. And the damage looks like it got a little nerfed. But other than that, I mean, it's a pretty good CC skill. Still able to stun enemies. I think they just don't want you to use arrow bomb as a main source of attack, and they want to make it into a CC skill, not a main source of attacking skill. Like, even if there's two enemies, they want you to use a double shot over arrow bomb. I'm not sure what the reason for the nerf is. Maybe they just kind of had to keep it pretty fair between iron arrow and arrow bomb. But it looks pretty cool. Let's see what you guys are saying in chat. Let me read chat real quick. I guess because Sins get absurd mobility later on that they didn't remove punching for them. Something to differentiate the range class a bit. No, bomb has the same stun change and damage was buffed from 130 to 50. Oh, okay. Prado says the bomb has the same stun chance and damage was actually buffed. So the only thing that got nerfed was the amount of monsters that you can stun, essentially. Pretty cool. Well, that's about it. I think that's the end of the video. And I think this video, although it was really hard to capture the description of the skill and frame, he covered all the classes. Really cool. Yeah, that was fun, right? What do you guys think? Are you guys excited? I'm pretty excited. Somebody said that there's a closed beta coming out in April. So we'll get a chance to play the game. Hopefully, if we get accepted. But if there's a closed beta, offline or online beta happening in April, that means the game's gonna release in May or June, right? Hopefully by May. Which class do you find most enticing? Man, that's a hard question. After looking at all the classes, I think the really interesting one would be the bandit. I think the bandit is really interesting. I think warriors need to... The only thing that I did not like... Actually, two things I didn't like is that the bows don't whack. Me personally, I think there should be bow whacking. It makes the game more interactive, more fun. Like, it keeps you more engaged. And another thing that I did not like is, it's not that I didn't like, another thing that I think needs a little bit of work is the final attack for warriors. So if you're playing a warrior, I like that the final attack is a trigger, but I think there needs to be a visual or an auditory cue instead of you having to look up at the screen every 0.5 seconds to make sure that you're not missing that. I think you should play crossbow, and once you don't bow whack, I think most people will love this change. Yeah, I'm not gonna hate on it until I play it for sure. Well, I wanna give it a try and play, and then we'll see. Hold on, let me reduce me. I'm like giant on the screen. Go back to, I think about this size is usually my normal size, right? Like I'm this big. But I'm very excited. That was a really cool video, and that was a really cool thing to do for me to go over all the classes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe tomorrow or something, because I'm running out of time, I'll do it in Korean. Yeah, also final attack seems annoying to use. So not my name says there's a visual for final attack. You get like a red bubble circle around your character. Okay, so if there's like a visual cue or an auditory cue, I think it's a cool, it keeps the class really engaging and fun. I think that's pretty cool. As long as there's like a visual or an auditory cue. But anyway guys, it's past my time. It was fun hanging out with you guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a like. Subscribe to my channel. I stream Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to usually around 2 p.m. I go over sometimes if I can. And it was fun. A lot of you guys are new to my channel. So come hang out with me again. It was fun to hang out with you guys. What else? Oh, I recently hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And there's this new and when you get certain amount of subscribers on YouTube, you can become partnered with YouTube. And I recently became a partner streamer for YouTube, partner content creator for YouTube. If you guys have the luxury and the leniency and the availability, consider becoming a member of my stream, member of my channel, and that way you can get your unique emotes that you can post on chat. You can also see a little bit more of my personal life in YouTube posts when I post photos of whatever I'm doing outside of stream. And yeah, and it's a great way to support me and support my stream. But other than that, I'll see you guys tomorrow 9 a.m. 오늘 방송 여기까지 할 거고요. 방송 우리 한국 분들이 아직 지켜보고 계신지 모르겠지만 한국 시청자분들이 같이 시청해 주셔서 즐거웠고 재밌었습니다. 제가 최근에 1000명이라 구독자 1000명을 넘겼는데 유튜브 파트너가 되면서 멤버십이라는 체계를 얻었거든요. 그런 시스템이 생겼는데 파트너가 되면서 여유가 있으시다면 채널의 멤버가 되어서 멤버 특유만 사용할 수 있는 이모티콘과 그리고 제 사생활을 제가 이제 멤버들한테만 공유하는 제 사생활에서 즐기는 사생활 같은 모습을 공유하는데 그것도 즐기실 수 있어서 그리고 이제 내 방송을 지원해 줄 수 있는 방법이라고 생각해요. 그래서 여유가 되신다면 멤버십 가입해 주시면 좋겠고 저는 방송 오늘 여기까지 할 거고요. 내일 저녁 11시에 방송 다시 키도록 하겠습니다. Alright guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye. It was fun.